In this lesson, we're gonna continue to work with the selection, and we're gonna see how we can cut and paste part of the image. So we're gonna work in an image using the pixels. In the previous video, we created this kind of Polaroid effect by working both with the cropping of the document. So we worked both on canvas and also we worked on the layer by using the simple rectangular selection. So we're going to move forward in this video. We're going to concentrate more on these basic selections right here. And also we're going to talk again about the cropping and how we can do generative, expand, how we can use artificial intelligence to generate more content or fill the missing parts of an image by using the content aware fill. So let's get started here. And I've selected an image and I have right here in my computer, but you can select any image and any image will be fine. For what we need to do here is going to be just simple working with the selection. So let's get started here with selection. We saw that if I click and drag with the rectangular selection, I have this really simple selection box and I can access the command that I find here, or I can also go in the edit because now we will work using the selection instead of the entire image. Or I can also right click with my mouse. So if I right click, I can access these other options. For example, the simplest one is deselect. Or again, if we want only a portion of the image, we don't want the entire image, we can click and drag, and just like cropping, we can just go like select and then right click, select inverse, and then just delete. Delete with the delete key. It's gonna ask you if you want to fill the deleted part with something. So if you don't want anything, you just go for the transparent, or just you can use foreground color or background color, which are right here. So right now the foreground color is red. So if I delete this, it's gonna fill up with the red. Or if you don't want any background, if you want transparency, you need to do something really important here. You need to unlock the image from the background. So you double click here and just create a new layer, and that's gonna unlock the image. So if you delete now, it's gonna leave the transparency. So it's gonna be totally empty. So depending on what you need to do, you need to keep in mind these little options that you have. So let's get started by doing some operations with the selection. And this is the most basic selection here. So these are the easiest tools. And then we have to use. And then we have like lasso. And then we have advanced selections too. But we're going to talk about those later. Just want to start with the simple selection. And right now we are in the rectangular. But if I click and hold, I can switch to elliptical. And then I have a single row marquee tool, and then I have single column, but let's go for the elliptical marquee tool. And I'm going to click and drag. So also an important feature here is the feather. So feather is going to be a blurred edge that is going to make things more blurred in the passage from the image to another. So if I say feather 0 and just click and drag here, and if I click also with the left mouse, I can move the selection around. But if I take the move tool and try to move the selection, look what happens. I'm creating a cut. I'm cutting the original image, and I'm cutting using a pretty sharpened edge. So I don't have the blur right here. Let me just go back, Control Z, and let me go back in the selection tool. So you see that when I am in the selection tool, the option bar here at the top changes. The contextual bar here changes with the options. So if I say like now 100 pixels feather, and this is going to change. Oh, let me just go back more and recreate. Well, if you want a perfect circle, hold the shift key and click and drag. So it's going to be a perfect circle. And now it's going to have also 100 pixel feather. So if I move this, look what happens. It's not a sharp cut. It's a blurred cut. So this will blend images better together. So if I place it here, you can see there is a blending. It's not a straight cut. And that's another important option when you do selections. Also, anti-aliasing is important, so you may want to keep it on. Otherwise, you're going to have like zigzag effect due to the pixels, because we're working with the pixels in the end, like always. And you can also fix the proportion here. So I can say fixed ratio, and I say 1:1. So every time I create, it's just going to create circles. It's not going to create ellipse anymore. And if I use the rectangular, it's going to create only square. So right now this is rectangular, but if I go here and say fix a ratio 1:1, and it's going to be square. Or I can do fixed ratio 1:2. So width is 1, height is 2, and there it is. Or you can also make fixed size. So I can say, okay, I want just a rectangle of 1000 pixels times 500 pixels. So that's it. I'm not able to click and drag. I can just click inside, and that's going to be like a fixed proportion, fixed size. Now there are also many other things you can do with selection. I cannot show you everything in one video, but we're going to talk more about this also later on. But you have also like select and mask, and this is going to open up an advanced tool that is really good when you need to do photo montages and you need to do like more precise cutting of the image. So not just like rectangles and circles, but also you have, again, some advanced features. We're going to talk about those later. What I want to show you right away is that here you also have the possibility to change these switches here. So if you want to create a new selection every time you click and drag here, so let me change to elliptical again. And I want to do like normal, so I don't want to fix a ratio. So here I'm just creating a new selection every time I click and drag. But if I want to add the new one, you can use this. So this is going to add the new one, add to selection. So the more I create circles, and we also have a feather here, so they appear really with a nice blend here. They don't appear like too sharp, so they blend together. If I change this and make it 0 again, you will see a more precise circle shape and edges. So we can change this to your liking. And we can also subtract. So in that case, it's gonna remove parts of the selection like this. So you can do really complex operations here of adding and subtracting and have like really particular selection. You can also do intersect. So intersect is going to be the part in common between this selection that is right here and the next one. So if I create, let me show you here, let's create a rectangle. Let's use intersection, and I'm going to just click on this right here inside. So that's the only part in common between the previous selection and the new one. There you go. So this is intersection. And these are all the operations you can do with the selections in this bar, in the top bar. Now let's move on with the following tools that we have. So right click, and we can deselect, select inverse. We already know that. You can also invert selection right here. It's quicker thanks to this bar. And you also can access options here, some of the commands. And you also have feather, which again is gonna make things more and more smooth. So that's like 40, and again you can see there is smoothing. You can also use Control C, Control V, and that's gonna create a copy. So now I have a new layer here with the copy of this. So I can select it and move it around. So it appears like, I don't know, like a ghost or smoke. So again, you can still do the things that you do with the entire image. So if I do Control C, Control V here, I'm copying the entire image. But if I have a selection on, it's just going to work on those pixels where the selection is. So again, let's create another one like this. And now if I go to edit, I can cut or copy. So Control X, Control C, and paste, Control V, and also paste special, which is paste in place. And you can also clear, which means you can delete again those pixels, clear out the area of the pixels. So let's also cut. If I do Control X, that's gonna cut. So if I do Control V, it's gonna paste. And it's gonna paste it, you see, in another level again, in another layer. If I do, instead of simple paste, paste special, paste in place, it's gonna paste it exactly in the same position. But be careful, because when you cut and paste, you usually have these little lines that maybe they're not visible, but they could leave a small gap. So if you wanna cut from the original image, I think it's better to copy instead of just you know, cutting, because when you cut, you're gonna remove those pixels. Now, another important thing, let me just do another copy here. So I'm just gonna use the elliptical. So another important thing, when I copy this, so let's do Control C, Control V. There you go. So now this layer only has pixels in that part. So let's say I wanna cut this part. Well, you cannot do it because there's no pixel in there. So if I do Control X, it's gonna tell you, because it's gonna give you an error, because there's nothing there. The area is empty, so you cannot use that here. So be careful on the layer that you add. You need to be on a layer that actually contains pixels. So I can move the selection here again, Control C, and now it works. Control V. Now I do have a copy here of those pixels. Just gonna delete these layers here. And another important thing, your layer must be rasterized. So let me just show you this. I'm gonna open a new file. Actually, I'm gonna create a new from a pixel grid here of 1000, and then I'm gonna bring in with the embedded, I'm gonna bring in another image. So let's go for this one here, perhaps. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. So you see this is a smart object. So when it's a smart object, you cannot work with the cuts. You cannot modify the pixels in here. So if I go and create again a selection, I cannot cut. I can only copy, and I cannot delete the pixels in there until I rasterize this. So this is another difference between a smart object and a rasterized object or layer. So if I right click and rasterize, now I'm able to clear or to cut. And be careful again on the feather. So if it's too much, you can decrease this like to 5. And then let's try it again with the delete key. There you go. Now we have a smaller feather. So it's a really important difference. We just use this new one since we are here. Okay, and just gonna quickly cut away those white areas of my document. So instead of using the selection now, I'm just gonna use the crop. And I'm gonna crop like this. There you go. Let's continue with the selection. So again, I want to create this, and we have some commands also here. So you can transform the selection, which means you can change the size, scale it, you can rotate it, you can, just like an image, you can do all the things that we already know. You can also like bend, warp, like an arc. So anything we saw for the image, we can do it with the selection. And then you can also select the border. So border selection, we need to define a number of pixels, let's say 30. As you see, it's kind of creating a double selection so that I can use that to fill it with something. So I can use this, so I can fill, and you can do content aware fill color, fill pattern. Let's fill with the pattern now. So you choose the pattern here. I don't want to go through all of this, just going quick but we're going to talk more about blending and patterns later. So let's just go OK. So you can see it's filling that with a pattern, or I can fill it with simple color, which could be just, plain red. So could be fill contents with color. You can use foreground color, background color, content aware, pattern, black, white. Let's do black. And there you go. So really, really, again, simple stuff. Now I'm just going to deselect from here. This is a quick way you can also deselect. And let's see something else. Again, you can smooth selection. So we already talked about this, but this is more for, let's say you have like a rectangle selection, which is pretty, this is now fixed size, so let's make it normal. Okay, so you see it's, you have really sharp corners. So if you do smooth selection, it's going to smooth out just the corners there. Now if I move it using the move tool, it's going to create a cut. And you see it's a sharp cut. So it's not the same as feathering. You can do both. So I can come here and just go to the selection, select this, and then use the smooth selection of 50, and together I can feather these of 50. So you're gonna have like two different smoothing. So if I press, oh wow, if I just move, you see now we have both. We have rounded edges and we also have the blur, the feather effect. So let's move on, and again selection, and let's go back here. You can also expand, so you can make this bigger, like 100 pixel bigger, or you can make it smaller, and you choose how smaller you want. Let's say like 50. There you go. And then you have the, so expand, contract, so increase, decrease, and then you have feather again, which we already know, and then again select and mask. So you see in the end you always have the same things, but you can find them in many ways. Now this is also to create a mask for the selection right here, but again we're going to talk about this later. And again we have a fill, and we also can create adjustment layers to do color correction, but we're going to see those later again. So this is basically what we find in here. If I right click, I have some other things right here. So I want to just take off the feather now. I want to make it 0. So just going to recreate, and there you go. So we have 0 feather. Now here we can also save the selection as a new channel, or all of these possibilities here. We can make a work path. So that's similar to the one that we saw before. So I just need to select the how big it's gonna be. So let's make it like 10. Well, let me see, more like 30 pixels. Okay. Oh, between 5 and 10. So let's make it like 5. And there you go. So we created a path right here, and I can use this for many reasons. I can use it to stroke or to fill. It's kind of a vector graphics, but we're gonna talk about paths later, just to show you how many things you can do with selection. And then you can also do again layer via copy, layer via cut, which we already did. New layer, well, that's kind of creating a new layer, but it's gonna be empty, kind of empty here. Yeah, so it's a totally empty layer. Or instead you can create a layer via copy. And there you go. Be careful that the area is empty. So make sure you are on a layer that contains some pixels. So again, right click, layer via copy, and there you go. So that's we have. That's another layer that we have with some content. Okay, let's move on. And free transform. Yeah, now we can free transform this selection. So it means that it also is gonna cut. So anything I did again with the image in the previous video, I can do it with the selection. I can warp, I can rotate, I can scale, and so on. Be careful not to confuse this with the, let me just go back here. So you have free transform selection is going to just transform the size of the selection. So it's not going to work on the cut, but it's just going to change. And then when you're ready, you can use this selection however you want. So like to create a new layer via cut or whatever else. Okay, let's go back. And field, we already talked about this. So we have a lot of different types. Now let's do content aware field. Now this is gonna do something based on the content that's around. So let's do okay, and let's see what happens here. There you go. So it's kind of filling up this, but we already have some content here. So let's try another point. So let's try here. So also right click, content aware field, and yeah, it's giving me like extra options here. So I'm just gonna say okay. You can see it changed the situation there. So it's kind of figuring out what's around and try to fix problems. This is mostly to avoid or to hide things that are in the image. So it's not probably the best thing. So when you need to remove, it's better to use that. But sometimes it's also good for generating. So let me just try here with some of the, yeah, I have some content here. So let's try to go there and fill this. So right click and do the content aware fill. There you go. Let's do okay. And there you go. So the people are removed. So pretty good when you need to remove stuff from an image. And again, let's continue and right click. So generative instead is going to generate something. So I need to tell Photoshop what I want to generate. So let's say here I want like let's do a one like let me see a girl on motorcycle cycle. Okay, and generate. So it's gonna generate that inside that area that I specified. So generating is more like filling with a new content that is not actually there. So this is why we call it artificial intelligence, because it's just gonna create new content that is not actually there. There you go. And then you can change your different options. Really, really cool. Now, if you want, you can continue to generate more options, or you just continue with other like areas and continuing to add again other feelings. So let's do again girl on moto and just wait. Now, every time you create a new generative or automatically generated content, it's going to create new layers. So you can see now everything here, and you can also turn on and off the various content that you generated. Let me see here. No, oh, there you go. So, well, let's keep it like this. So you can see I can turn on and off right there. Now you can also use the AI to remove instead of adding. So I'm gonna open here a new image just to show you. So let me show you like, um, well, I have another, yeah, this one here. So for example, in this picture, I have this wall right here at the bottom, which I don't really like. So what I'm gonna do is just select the area that I wanna fix like this. And then instead of, well, you can try with both like the content aware field and see what's gonna happen. So you see how it's gonna work with this. And it's not really perfect. You see a line there. And you can try also with generative field, so generative AI, which in my opinion is a little bit more accurate and sometimes is perfect. Sometimes you need to work on that. So let's do content instead of doing, sorry, content over field, we go for generative field and let's generate. So you can either run it from there or you can run it from the bar. So if you leave it empty, it's not going to add any content. It's just going to remove what it thinks that is kind of not supposed to be in there to have like a better picture. So again, everything is totally artificially done or automatically done. Is all about artificial intelligence. I'm not doing anything. There you go. That looks pretty uh, way much better than before. And so if you leave this empty, you can remove. If you type here anything, it's going to create what you want there to see. So let's add some words here. And it's kind of also like brainstorming. So the content may not be perfect, but then you can work on that. You can make it better, or you can create a better photo montage, better picture to add in there, and but just to have a quick look of how that could become. Yeah, that's not doing too much. It just removed here the whatever was in there before. So sometimes it removes, sometimes it adds. So let's add like Viking girl and generate. So let's see if now does something better of adding. So just try, and do brainstorming, and eventually you're gonna get some idea. But you can see how, yeah, you clean the image already. And sometimes it just creates, really strange stuff. Just if you want, just regenerate more and see what's gonna happen here. So just type new words or change words and generate again and see what's gonna create for you. All right, so I can literally spend hours playing with this stuff. It's so fun. But you get the idea now. You can play yourself. And let me just go back to some previous image. So we discover how many things you can do with selection and some new features. So be careful again that you're in a layer with some content. And the last one is going to be delete and fill selection. So this is just going to delete and refill with something. So it's kind of, again, like hiding stuff. So if I like select here people and delete and fill selection, is going to delete that part, but it's also going to regenerate. Well, in this case, it figured that you wanted the C there, but so you see how different they can come up here: generate fill and content aware fill, remove and fill. They are similar, but they always like come up with different solutions. Some of that is going to be better in a way, and some in other. There you go. So this is now perfect. We removed people, so I can remove all the people in this picture if I want. And the last thing we should see here, we want to see, is how we can also use the crop. So using the crop, if I crop down like this, it's just going to remove the pixels. If you want, you need to say deleted cropped pixels. Otherwise, you can maintain them if you uncheck this. But also, we can create new content. So if I create here a larger area with the cropping tool like this, well, you can decide if you want to leave that transparent or empty, or if you want to generate more content. So if I say generate, I can choose generative expand, or I can go here and choose content aware fill. Again, try both, see which one works the best. So you can see now it's kind of duplicating and repeating this element, which is not really nice. If I don't do, like, if I cover this with a photo montage or something, it's not going to be really good also here. And instead, let's use the generative AI, which in my experience, it's a little bit more powerful. So it's gonna like generate, trying not to do strange stuff. So let's do, instead of content aware, let's do generative expand. Let's say okay, and let's see what's gonna happen here. And again, this is going to be a kind of longer process, but usually it's better. So let's see what's going to happen here. And there you go. So you can see it's nothing looks like out of place. Some generative trees here, and well, everything looks fine. So let's turn on all the other generated content, and I think that's pretty good. So I'm gonna stop here for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to the channel and stay updated. And if you want to thank us, support us, please join the channel as a supporters. We're gonna stop here. We will continue in the following lesson.